must be the place. Professor Ubier's house.
Looks pretty creepy. I'd been away from Paris and hadn't seen Nico for nearly 6 months. I wanted to celebrate our reunion, but she had other plans. An appointment with an archaeologist. Something to do with a Mayan stone she came across while researching a story. The guy who answered the door didn't look much like an archaeologist to me. I had a bad feeling about this. There were only 3 things I didn't like about spiders. The way they looked, the way they moved, and the fact that they lived on the same planet as me. This spider was big, mean, and hairy, and definitely not a native of Europe. I glanced over the books, vaguely hoping to find a copy of How to Deal with Poisonous Spiders While Tied to a Chair. No such luck. But I noticed one corner of the bookcase was supported by a loose block of wood. Maybe I'd been a little heavy-handed, but it was a question of survival. Of course, I was still tied to a chair in a burning house with no means of escape. The bookcase had been anchored to the wall by a protruding metal bracket. It had sheared off as the bookcase had fallen, leaving a jagged edge. With one mighty bound, our hero was free. Now, I had to deal with that fire. Yellow pus was seeping from below the bookcase. That spider was very squashed. It was a closed drawer. In the drawer was a small decorated pot. Inside, I found a bottle of tequila. Normally, I didn't drink strong spirits, but today was far from normal. Ew. Disgusting. Not only did the tequila burn like hell, I just managed to stop myself from swallowing the worm. What looked like a little shriveled wiener lay on the carpet. Thankfully, it was only the worm from the tequila bottle. Well, I wasn't going to eat it, but life had taught me one thing. No matter how unlikely it seems, the strangest objects have their uses. Even tequila worms. Nice couple. It was Nico's bag. It was a stylish little canvas number containing a lipstick, a handwritten note, and a pair of nylon panties with a large love heart emblazoned across the front. It occurred to me that Nico's tastes must have really changed while I was away. Well, they could be useful. That dart was sharper than a mosquito's business end, but this didn't deter me from getting it anyway. I wasn't going to touch the box after that spider had been inside it. There was no pressure in the siphon. I guess it was out of gas. In the cabinet's wooden door was a very small keyhole. The cabinet was locked. As I released the lock, something blew the doors open. That cylinder was hot. I couldn't pick it up with my bare hands. The panties I'd found in Nico's bag were just what I needed to wrap around the hot cylinder. The cylinder gave out a faint hiss as the valve opened. Huh? Now I had one primed up and ready to use extinguisher. With a well-aimed squirt of his soda fountain, our unshakable hero saved the day. Now it was time to start looking for Nico. I wasn't going to burn myself on that red-hot doorknob, and it wasn't the time for subtlety. The door was locked. I didn't fancy my chances of kicking this door down. The pot contained a key. I guess I had no business reading the note, but I figured it might give me a clue to what Nico was involved in. It was from Andre Labino, the history student Nico had known at college. The letter was sentimental mush, and revealed that the exotic lingerie, as he called it, was a gift from him. It gave his telephone number. Labino figured himself as a rival for Nico's affections, but I couldn't believe that that creep was in the running. Much as I disliked him, Labino might be my only hope of finding Nico. Hi, Andre?
Who is this?
It's George Stobart, Nico's boyfriend.
Don't you mean ex-boyfriend?
Look, I didn't call you just to pick a fight. I need to talk to you about Nico.
Can't you accept she's just not interested in you?
Listen, Andre, we need to talk. Nico's life depends on it.
Okay. You remember the cafe at Montfaucon?
Sure. Andre? You'd better show, you creep. I felt an irrational urge to wipe my ear. I'd found a piece of newspaper folded in two. It referred to a forthcoming eclipse of the sun. Unfortunately, it wouldn't be visible from Europe. The best place to view the eclipse would be Mexico. The door was locked. I unlocked the door. I wasn't looking forward to meeting Labino again, but he was my only link with Nico. There was no sign of Labino when I got to the cafe. I decided to order a coffee and wait for him. Oh, garçon. He ignored me. I'm sure it was deliberate. The man at the next table looked somehow familiar. It was a small silver flask from which the man was topping up his glass. Hey, you.
Quoi?
I'd like a cup of coffee if you don't mind.
When I finish serving this gentleman.
I couldn't snatch the man's flask while he was looking.
Un café.
Thanks. What does that guy keep pouring out of his flask?
Absinthe.
Absinthe? I thought that was highly dangerous and outlawed in France.
It is. Don't look at me, I didn't sell it to him.
Do you know that man over there?
I should think so. He's a regular customer.
Who is he?
A man with a secret. He used to be a cop.
Of course. I'd met the gendarme in this very cafe.
He was kicked out of the force a few months ago. Since then, he's been drinking himself stupid. His liver must look like the last pickle in the jar.
Have you heard of Professor Oubier?
Oui. He married that actress, the little dachshund. They used to come here. The nutty professor and the movie star.
If Oubier's wife was a movie star, how come I never heard of her?
She was big in France. The world doesn't stop at Hollywood. Her stage name was Carol Climax. She died in suspicious circumstances.
How did Oubier's wife die?
I heard he shot her.
And got away with it?
He had a good lawyer and a watertight alibi.
Why would an eminent public figure like Oubier risk everything for murder?
He wouldn't be the first, would he? Besides, people like him always get off.
Do you know a guy called Andre Lobineau?
Oui, I know him. What of it?
Well, I'm supposed to meet him here. Did I miss him?
No, I have not seen him today.
That's all.
Thank you.
Well, well, this is a surprise, Georgie.
I wouldn't normally call you. But Nico's in trouble, Andre. Deep trouble. You have to help me find her.
What? What have you dragged her into this time?
It was you that recommended Professor Oubier as an expert on Mayan art. Now his butler has kidnapped her, and he tried to kill me.
Every time she gets involved with you, there is trouble. Walking out on her was the best thing you could do.
My father was dying, damn it. I had no choice.
Well, she soon recovered once she went back to her old friends.
Drop it, Andre. Right now, Nico's in danger, and we have to work together.
So, how can I help?
Nico needed to speak to Oubier about a stone.
Oh, you mean this stone?
So that's what all the trouble's about.
Precisely. Nicole told me to guard it with my life.
Well, it's worth more than that, surely.
Oh, very funny.
What's funny is that your life really is on the line.
What are you talking about?
The stone is a Mayan artifact, dummy, and the guy who kidnapped Nico was from Central America. It was the stone they were after.
Oh my god, you mean I could be in danger too?
Does Oubier employ a guy from Central America?
Maybe. I don't know.
You never been to his house? I thought you guys were pals.
Fellow academics, Georgie. It's not quite the same thing.
Why didn't Nico take the stone to Oubier?
I don't know. Perhaps she suspected something like this would happen.
If she's been hurt, Andre, I'll break every bone in your body.
No, that's typical of you. Do you think I don't care what happens to Nicole?
It occurred to me that slugs don't have bones to break, but I kept that thought to myself. What do you think this is, Andre?
I don't know.
I'll give you a clue. It's got more backbone than you.
You think you're amusing, don't you?
What can you tell me about this pot?
South or Central American, I'd say. I have a friend who'd be able to tell you more.
Where can I find this guy?
He owns a gallery on the left bank, the Gliese Gallery.
Tell me about your friend Ubier.
He's more of a professional acquaintance than a friend.
I see. So you don't really know him at all?
No, I don't.
What do you suppose the carving on the stone means?
I don't know. I haven't shown it to anyone.
Why don't you just give it to me?
I don't want your death on my conscience, George.
Where did Nico get the stone?
I'm not sure I should tell you.
Oh, you should.
It was something to do with smuggling.
See you later.
Goodbye, Georgie.
I've had enough of your games, Kala. Tell me what you've done with my stone.
I thought your business was simply smuggling cocaine, Karzak. Why are you so interested in that stone?
Either you tell me what I want to know, or Pablo here will make you talk.
Okay. Well, I figured someone at the university would be able to help. So I had a word with one of my girlfriends, and she told me her boyfriend was a lecturer. I sent the stone to the Department of Ethnology. You know, I figured it was South American, so... You're not buying this, are you?
That's enough! I don't have time to listen to your mindless prattle. We'll leave you to think it over. Come the morning, you'll be ready to talk.
I had no desire to go down into the sewers. The waiter's stained and crumpled clothes looked as if they'd been slept in. I decided not to bother with a meal. Pardon me, but don't I know you?
Huh?
You were here the day I found the catacombs.
I was? Ah, yes. I remember you.
Yeah. Are you still in the police force?
No, not anymore. I'm a man of leisure. And what brings you back to Paris?
My girlfriend.
What it is to be young and in love. Will you share a bottle of wine with me?
Hey, listen, I'd love to, but I need to keep a clear head.
So my company isn't good enough for you.
What do you make of this news cutting?
Orphanage supplied fast food chain?
No, it's the article above that.
Oh! Total eclipse of the sun. Well, that's very dull in comparison. I don't know anything about eclipses.
What do you make of this dart?
I remember a case where the victim was killed with just such a device. The poison acted in seconds, causing his body to swell up like an inflatable life raft.
What's that you're drinking?
It's wine.
The waiter said it's absinthe.
That fool wouldn't know Pernod from cat's piece.
Have you ever heard of a Professor Ubier?
No, monsieur. I don't recall the name.
Well, apparently he's an expert on Mayan art and history.
A little out of my field of experience, monsieur. If he'd been a serial killer or a sodomite, I might have been able to help.
You need anything else?
That's all.
Thank you.
Why did you leave the police?
I was forced to retire. The golden handshake. Only in my case, it was more copper than gold.
How come?
I was made a scapegoat to cover up the department's inefficiencies.
Do you miss being a gendarme?
Yes, of course I do. When I wore that uniform, I commanded respect. Not anymore.
The ex-gendarme showed no effects from the wine he was pouring down his throat. Excuse me.
Leave me alone.
I grabbed the flask and was struck by a powerful smell of absinthe, a highly potent and illegal alcoholic drink. I had no desire to go down into the sewers. Now I had another lead. I could either go back to Ubier's house or visit the Glee's gallery. The Glee's gallery had style and class, but very few customers. Hi, girls. What's the joke?
あなたはキレてですね。
Okay, fine. He was a pear-shaped guy with a fine display of multiple chins. Are you Mr. Glees, the owner?
Good God, no.
Then I guess that must be him over there, right?
Your powers of deductive reasoning astound me.
What's that you're drinking?
I'm not sure, but I have a suspicion it might be urine. Glees can't expect a favorable criticism of his gallery when he serves this muck.
Have you heard of Professor Ubier?
Yes, of course.
I was at his house earlier.
If you're going to drop names, you could at least name one worth dropping.
I thought Ubier was a well-respected man.
Why, his last book was nothing but pseudo-intellectual claptrap. The demented ramblings of a drug-dependent has-been.
Would you give me your opinion on this pot, sir?
Yes. Very rapouche.
Rapouche?
Hideous.
What the hell do you think you're doing? You smashed my pot.
Certainly, it was not only worthless, it was ugly and offensive.
To you, maybe.
Believe me, I was doing you a favor.
I wasn't going to waste any more breath talking to that pompous blimp. Maybe I could turn the situation to my advantage, and at the same time, get my revenge. The glass was half full of wine. I'd like to ask you a few questions, if you don't mind.
Certainly, sir. I'd be most happy to oblige.
You're English?
These days one prefers to think of oneself as European.
Sure. Whatever you say.
And how precisely may one assist you, sir?
What I really wanted to ask you about was a black stone.
A black stone?
Yeah, it's a Mayan artifact, about as big as my hand.
No, sir, one doesn't get much call for black stones. If it's Mayan artifacts you're interested in, I have some rather exquisite pots.
So did I, until that slob smashed it. Have you heard of Professor Ubier?
Of course. His name is synonymous with Mayan art. A number of these artifacts were supplied by Ubier himself.
Do you believe the story that Ubier murdered his wife?
If it was true, who can blame him? She was an opportunist tramp. Well, that's what I heard.
Have you seen any of Ubier's wife's films?
Only one. Believe me, I was appalled, shocked, disgusted, and repulsed.
Well, you sure got your money's worth. Last time I went to the movies, I wasn't even titillated. I suppose you have an import license for these relics?
Of course. But that's not my problem, sir. The professor arranges all the shipping. We simply collect the items from the docks.
Could you tell me which docks Professor Ubier uses to import the artifacts?
Good God, no. I can't possibly reveal my commercial secrets.
Do you get many Central American Indians in here?
No, sir. This is Paris. Central America is several thousand kilometers southwest of here. Straight across the Atlantic Ocean and turn left. You can't miss it.
Well, as it happens, I saw some Central American Indians this very morning.
Tourists, sir. Paris is full of them at this time of year.
I found this news story referring to a total eclipse of the sun.
Really, sir? Well, fascinating.
There is a gentleman over there who seems to be enjoying your wine.
I can't think why. It was very cheap.
The pot had smashed into too many pieces to retrieve. A valuable relic of an ancient civilization lay smashed on the floor. It was a sturdy packing case.
Excuse me, sir.
Uh-huh.
That area is private.
Oh, so I'm not allowed back here?
No, sir.
I splashed a little absinthe into the glass and hoped he wouldn't notice the change of color.
Did you put something in my drink?
Yeah, I did. What do you think?
Well, it's certainly an improvement over Gleese's wine. In fact, I could grow to like it.
Allow me. Were those pots very valuable?
The pots are insured, but not the shelving. You've no idea how much that cost me.
I had no possible use for a credit card reader. There was nothing in the case but styrofoam packing, but pasted on the side was the remains of a label. Underneath the logo of a flying bird were the words Condor Transglobal Mars. The rest of the label was missing. It was a label bearing the name Condor Transglobal. It was the newspaper clipping referring to the imminent eclipse. Wrapped inside it was another small piece of paper. It was a bank statement for Ubier's account from an automatic telling machine. The last 5 withdrawals were for large amounts, and all made in Marseille. It was beginning to make sense. Ubier had organized Nico's abduction. Ubier withdrew money from Marseille. Ubier was connected with Transglobal, who shipped their goods from a warehouse in Marseille. That's how the torn Transglobal label had once read. Marseille, not Mars. It wasn't much of a lead, but it was all I had. I set off immediately to catch the evening train. It was almost dawn when I arrived in Marseille. I traced Condor Transglobal to a desolate dockside. A chain-link fence barred the entrance to the docks. It was a mean-looking guard dog. It was a box of blank forms. Something was bubbling in the watchman's saucepan. The watchman was big and bulgy, like a sack of potatoes. His flushed and bloated face wore a sleepy, amiable expression. It was the trapdoor which the slob used as a waste chute, straight into the sea.
Hi there.
Hey! How long you been watching me?
Well, I wasn't watching.
You were looking.
Oh, well, yeah, but I wasn't watching.
What'd you want? Do you know what time it is?
No, I don't wear a watch. As my dad used to say, I'm not into time, man.
Well, you're too early.
What time is it anyhow?
The big hand's on the floor. Why aren't you in bed?
I can explain everything.
Never mind, I ain't that interested.
What time do you open the gates?
7.
Do you mind if I hang out here till the docks open?
Please yourself, but you'll have a long wait. It's Sunday, and tomorrow is the start of the national holiday. Everything is closed for a month.
Well, wouldn't you just know it? Does that dog belong to you?
Nah, he comes with the job. I just feed him every now and then.
More then than now, I'd say. What's the dog's name?
20.
It's unusual for a dog.
It's his registration number. Security dog number 20.
That animal doesn't seem too hot for a guard dog.
No? You haven't seen him in action.
Doesn't look like he has the energy to wag his tail.
Just like my wife. She's like a slug in a coma until she's annoyed. Then, she's like a tiger with a rat up its ass.
Sweet. Have you ever heard of Professor Oubier?
Me? None of my friends are professors or anything like that.
Ever heard of Condor Transglobal?
Sure. They have a warehouse here.
Well, could I take a look?
Not until after the holidays. Come back in a month.
What's cooking?
Beans. You know a man can live on nothing but beans.
Not this one. Don't you ever get tired of eating beans?
Sure I do. What do you take me for?
And what's the alternative?
Peas. I can't eat them too often, though. They play hell with my digestion.
Have you ever considered changing your diet?
What's wrong with beans and beer?
You need me to tell you? You're pumping out enough methane here to fill a dirigible. I have to make a delivery to Condor Transglobal.
Where's your rig?
About half a mile down the road.
And you walked here? Jeez, are you some kind of nut?
Nah, it was easy. I just put one foot in front of the other. Are you gonna let me make my delivery?
Not without the paperwork. You get the papers, you make your delivery, and I get a fat backhander.
I was getting nowhere with the story about being a trucker. Do you know what kind of business Condor's involved in?
I'm paid to guard the gate. Their business is none of mine.
I gotta go now, but I'll be back.
Can't wait.
The chimney was a metal pipe with a conical hat on top to stop the rain getting in. Ouch! That's hot. The panties would not have been thick enough to shield this level of heat. A short stick of wood floated near the edge of the landing stage. The stick had a hook on one end. I figured it was a boat hook, for hooking boats. Bobbing up and down in the oily water was the watchman's discarded beer bottle. The platform was held up by a hinged bracket. I couldn't figure out what it was for. Maybe it was part of a structure which no longer existed. My arms weren't long enough to reach the platform. My arms weren't long enough to reach the platform. It was a packet with a picture of a boxer dog on the front. It was a large bucket filled with coal.
Excuse me? Huh? Who's there?
I just knew that boat hook would be useful for something. As for the bottle, even if I couldn't find a use for it, I'd cleaned up the dock a little. It was the beer bottle that slob of a watchman had dumped in the sea, now half full of filthy dock water. The label read, "Surge, the beer that clears your head." The bottle was half filled with water. Maybe it would cool the cone down enough to touch it. Now I could see into the pipe which formed the chimney. The bottle had blocked the chimney, and the hut was filling up with smoke. It was a large bucket filled with coal. Someone had once told me a piece of coal brought you luck. Who was I to argue with irrational superstition? The packet was full of dog biscuits. I realized that that wasn't such a good idea. The guard dog was staring at me with a hungry look in his eyes. Hey, 20! Come and get it, boy! Hey, 20! Come and get it, boy! I felt a slight twinge of conscience as I prepared to give the dog a dunking. It soon passed. As I'd expected, the dog could swim like a dog. I decided not to tamper with the clamp. Those jaws looked like they could snap shut at any moment. It read, Pont de Nord, fine wine producers. I didn't recognize the label. It read, Condor Trans Global. I'd come to the right place. Now all I had to do was get inside. That door seemed to be the only way into the warehouse. The din must have drowned out the sound of my knocking. Maybe there was a way in up there. The guy was partly hidden behind a stack of crates. It was the creep who'd kidnapped Nico, and I had a score to settle. It was a powerful fan. That did the trick. The fan clunked and shorted out as its blades were mashed by the boat hook.
Hey! You make any more noise, I break your arms.
That bully needed to be taught a lesson.
Garzak's already mad because we didn't get the stone. You give me any trouble, I'll tell him it was all your fault.
Karzak? That must be his boss.
Who is it?
My name is Stobart. George Stobart.
What do you want?
I've come for my girl.
No girls here.
Open up, creep. I got the feeling he wasn't too pleased to see me. A fine old oak barrel. Even if he wasn't carrying a gun, I wouldn't want to mess with that guy. Among the paperwork which adorned the notice board was something which caught my eye. It was a delivery note from Condor Transglobal, and the address was Coromante City. The only interesting thing I found was a small brass key. It was locked. The little brass key didn't fit the lock. Whoa! Don't shoot! The little guy had a blowpipe. That confirmed my suspicions about what had happened to Nico. I waited for him to shoot me, but it didn't happen. Instead, he seemed to want to tell me something. What? What do you want? He seemed excited, almost desperate. What did he want so bad? The guy was partly hidden behind a stack of crates. Hi, I'm not going to hurt you.
Quaramonte!
Is that where you're from? Coromante City?
Quaramonte! Quaramonte!
Okay. What have you done with my girlfriend?
Huh?
I am not leaving without her. Where is she? He didn't appear to understand me. This was the dart you used to knock out my girlfriend. If she's come to any harm, I will count you personally responsible.
Lotte kapaitu vnor.
What does this key unlock?
Huh?
Hey, you're manacled. Who did this? That big thug? I'm gonna set you free, okay? Hey, come back here! The little guy had gone to ground amongst the stack of crates. Just in time. Interrupting the beam of light kept the doors from closing and stopped anyone from using the elevator. But what now? There. That would keep the doors from closing. An unmarked switch. Tempting. I was wrestling with the small crate when I noticed the label on its side. Danger. Live contents do not drop. The statue looked as if it was Central or South American in origin. There wasn't much I could do with a pulley that didn't have any rope. I noticed a faint mark on the wooden floor. There was an arc-shaped scratch on the floor, as if a door had been opened in the nearby wall. My fingers traced the outline of a secret door in the wall. Then I found a small round stud, which was set flush to the surrounding wooden paneling. Just as I'd hoped. A secret room. Nico! Nico was trussed up like a chicken, but she didn't appear to be harmed. Hold still. This might hurt a little.
Ow!
Think yourself lucky you don't have a mustache.
Thank God it's you, George. How did you find me?
I'll explain later. We have to get out of here.
Where's Pablo, the big guy?
Out cold. Too much wine doesn't agree with him. Are you okay?
Of course I'm not okay. Untie me this instant.
What?
Get me out of this chair.
There. How are you feeling?
Oh, thanks, Georges. How on earth did you find me?
I knew Oubier had been in Marseille. But never mind about me. How about you tell me exactly what's going on, starting with that Mayan stone?
I picked it up from one of Karzak's men in Paris. I was expecting a consignment of narcotics.
Drugs?
Yes. The proof I needed to expose Karzak's smuggling operation. I'd set it up to act as his courier, and once I had the proof, I planned to go straight to Inspector Mou. But instead of the dope I'd expected, they sent me that stone instead. And to find out more, I called Professor Oubier, who invited me to his mansion. At least,
I thought it was Oublié.
I don't get it. If Karzak's business is drugs, why is he so desperate to get his hands on that stone?
Maybe it has some significance to the local people in Central America. It could be Karzak's means of getting them to work for him. Anyway, we've got to get out of here.
Nico, wait! It was a grotesque little statue of a figure carrying a shield and a spear. We can't use the elevator. If that thug Pablo's recovered, he'll be waiting for us.
We've got to do something. Where does that door lead to?
I'm not sure. Did I hear you refer to Inspector Moo?
Yes, you remember him?
Well, of course I do. But I thought he was dead.
Oh no, he reappeared after the broken sword case had blown over. When he found out who was in with the Neo-Templars, he went into hiding. Moo knew more than was good for him.
Does he know about our involvement with the case?
If he does, he's not telling. Still, he got a sudden promotion.
Did that Indian guy mistreat you?
If you forget about the abduction, verbal threats, and bondage, no.
Well, what about the little guy?
I don't think he knows where he is or what he's doing here. The big guy, Pablo, he brought Titipoco from the jungle.
Titty what?
Titipoco. That's what I heard Pablo call the dwarf.
Tell me about this Karzak guy.
Well, I saw him for only a few minutes, but he frightened me. I got the impression that Pablo was nervous when he was around too. His eyes, they're like a wild animal's, like a tiger. That's what scared me most about him. He looked so unpredictable and dangerous.
Okay, tell me what you know about Condor.
Condor Transglobal exports Aztec and Mayan relics from Central America to Europe. But that's just a cover for the real business. Drug smuggling.
What proof do you have?
Nothing yet.
Do you know where Condor is based?
In Central America. A place called Quaramonte.
I saw that name on a docket downstairs. Have you any idea who this little statue is supposed to be?
I'm not very well acquainted with Mayan deities, Georges. But whatever his name, he sure is ugly.
Look, the little guy downstairs was chained up with these.
That must have been Pablo's doing. I don't blame him, though. That little guy is dangerous.
You're still sore about that poison dart?
Of course I'm sore.
Do you recognize this?
Is that the dart which knocked me out?
That's right. I kept it as a souvenir. I found these in your bag.
Oh, they were a gift.
I know. I read the note.
God knows what was going through Andre's mind.
I think that's quite plain enough. Did you know Oublié's wife was a film star?
No, I didn't know he was married. What happened to her?
She died. In mysterious circumstances, apparently.
How mysterious?
I heard she was murdered. Possibly by Oublié himself.
A murderer, huh? Andre said he was something of a celebrity.
Nico looked well considering her ordeal. A sturdy beam was jammed across the doors. These doors were not going to open. It was a pulley attached to a long rail which ran the length of the building. It wasn't much use, though. No rope. The rope wasn't long enough to reach the pulley. There wasn't enough room to move the handle. No chance. Whatever those crates contained, they were heavy. It was a device to prevent the elevator doors closing when they were obstructed. Hopefully, the tape would prevent those doors from closing and stop the Indian from being able to call the elevator. The pallet rose about 6 inches off the floor, and I said a silent prayer to whoever had discovered the power of hydraulics.
What on earth are you doing?
Trying to raise the statue so I can hook it to that pulley.
Is that really going to help us?
I like to keep myself occupied in times of stress. It was too heavy for me to move on my own. Could you give me a hand to push this statue?
What for?
This, my dear, is our passport to freedom.
If you say so, dear.
Okay, push! Great teamwork.
Nice to be working with you again, Mr. Stobart.
A cable stretched way out across the docks to a building in the distance. Nico, I have a great idea.
George, where have you been?
Never mind that. Do you have the Mayan stone?
Maybe I have, but,
Don't argue, Andre. Give the stone to George.
well, of course. If you say so, Nicole.
Thank you so much, Andre.
Georgie told me you'd been kidnapped, my dear. I'm glad to see he was mistaken.
Oh, but it was true. If it hadn't been for George, I wouldn't be here now.
It's not finished yet. Karzak's thugs will be back for that stone, you can bet. The best lead that we have is Coromante City.
Coromante? It's in Central America. That's where Ubier gets his artifacts.
That's all we needed to know. Come on, George.